here finally. I know it's been a long time you guys asking about the mods. 7 months since the last video, and probably 4 months since I was asked to do these mod videos. Probably my own fault, but I do keep telling you guys coming into the game, which it remains true. Mods are probably the most important thing in the game. Everybody wants to get new Warframes, new weapons, and get rid of their old shit, but mods are more important, because even your starter stuff can be good with the right mods. So, I'm going to use it as an example. Unfortunately, I'm not going to cover Warframes in the video because those things are just too unique. We gotta go through the wiki, we gotta show you what mods affect, what types of mods affect what Warframes, for what abilities, what kinds of builds. What I could tell you about the Warframes right now is just a general basic overview is check the wiki, look at what it says for maximization for each of the abilities, what makes sense for what you're going for. If you want to know about the abilities, which ones are good, which ones you should build for, it's another story. But, that's a question and answer. I don't need to do a video on that. I may do a few videos for 3 or 4 frames that are, my specific builds, why I built it the way I built it, but as far as general mod overview, I'm going to use the weapons. So, the mods, people won't know what kind of mods are out there when they're new to the game. What are my options? What should I be going for? I'm going to try to go over some of the more important things that you're going to need when you first start out. I'm going to try to make it as basic as possible. So your primary weapon, you're going to want, most importantly, is serration. Now, you may have broken serrations at first, which look like this. There's a crack in it. This is a full serration. Cracked, not cracked. The other way you could tell the difference is, notice on the bottom of the mod, there's 10 dots. And on the broken one, there's 3 dots on the bottom. The 3 dots means, like if you look at a basic serration, it's 15 unranked, and the broken one starts off 10 unranked, and it only goes up to I don't know what, I don't level those. But then if you get a 10 ranked one to max it out, you get 165 damage. Don't level your broken ones, try to get, a normal one. If you don't have one, I'll give one to you. I have some, just a little bit. Only 74 plus some copies of other, I don't know why I have those. So that's for primary weapons. This is the same kind of mod, it just adds damage, called Hornet Strike. Same thing here. I don't have any broken copy or know if there is a broken one. This is also a 10 rank mod. This one caps out at 220 damage, a little more than the primary. Other important ones, a little more rare, like Split Chamber. Split Chamber which adds multi-shot. The way multi-shot works right now, this is before whatever update they've added, the multi-shot, the fix. Right now, one shot, it fires a 90% chance at max rank to fire a second round at the same time. And it's basically firing 2 rounds at once, each one doing the same amount of damage that, your weapon does. You're just basically doubling your damage output. That's very important as well. The reason I say the way it works for now is because the devs talked about fixing the bug, which has been around since open beta, and they just kind of left it the way it is. The idea is that it's supposed to actually consume a second thing of ammo. When 2 rounds come out, it's supposed to reduce 2 from your magazine. At the moment, it doesn't do that. You spend 1 bullet to fire 2, and that's just kind of been the way. That's how it works, and hopefully they don't change it, but they've talked about it. Barrel diffusion is the same thing for secondaries. This also caps out at 120 though. As you can see, the mods for secondaries are a little more powerful than the primaries so far. That's kind of the standard, secondaries are more powerful. And there are versions of Grakata, for instance, that's a primary weapon. There's a secondary Grakata as well, the twin Grakatas. You get the same stats, and you get better mods for it. Same thing with Grinlock, you have the Marilock, the secondary version of the primary weapon. So sometimes you can use the same weapon, or a version of it, that uses a different set of mods based on the slot, primary or secondary. Melee as well, this has also got some important ones. First 2 things you throw onto a melee weapon: pressure point, melee damage, and fury, swing speed. As for melee builds though, you either go in 2 directions here. It's either a status melee weapon or a critical melee weapon, and I'm going to show you what that means. Sometimes it can be both, that's why I'm using this build, it's kind of a good example. If you look at the stats on this Nakata Prime, it says that there's a status chance of 20%, which is pretty good, and critical chance of 32%. This isn't base value, this is modded value, so it's looking at the mods that I have on it currently. Now this one is in particular built 32%. If I took my true steel off, you would see it would reveal the actual critical base, which is 20, matching that at the status chance. So this is one of these weapons you could either go crit or go status. When you're going critical, you want to do true steel and organ shatters, your critical chance and your critical damage. This multiplier is 3.8, almost 4 times the normal amount of damage. That damage being impact 10, puncture 10, slash 583. Base value of that is actually 188, but we bring that up with a couple of mods. These mods I'm not going to tell you are absolutely needed, they're a little more rare. Buzzkill you're probably not going to get your hands on anytime soon. Jagged Edge you can get, and adds 90 slash damage. There's also a mod called Rending Strike that also adds a little slash damage. It adds puncture damage as well, a little more puncture than slash, but 60-80. Those are good numbers. This is something you would have put on something that's got mostly puncture damage. If it's got good slash value, you're getting some good out of it. Everything works on percentages, so you gotta watch those base values and what, how does it make sense? I mean, if your weapon's got built-in elemental, if that number's larger than any physical damage types, you want to spec towards that element. Molten Impact. These add more than the elemental mod, like this one's 90%, and Northwind maxed out adds 90% cold. When you look at these elemental status ones, these add 60, not 90, so it's less elemental damage, but it's plus the status effect. If you wanted to go raw toxin damage, you could say, I'm going to put Violent Scourge on, I'm going to get 60% toxic and 60 status chance, and then go with Fever Strike, adding 90% toxin damage. The two of those stack together. So you're going to end up with a lot of toxin damage if you wanted to do that. Toxin is a good element, it's, damage over time, DOT. The higher the damage you're dealing, the more the proc is going to deal per second, and if you want the proc itself to last more time, Lasting Sting, status duration mod. This will make the status proc last longer, so if you have a really strong toxic DOT and you put something like this on there, I don't really use it, as you can tell, 84 of them and none of them are ranked. But if you were to use this, if you wanted to go that kind of build, then you could get a proc that lasts a really long time. It'll kill the enemy out and bleed them out slowly. This would affect any proc, physical damage type, elemental damage type, anything that it procs. This is going to make that proc last longer. I don't mean to direct you to the wiki for everything, but there's more information on there that I'm going to even be willing to go over. If you aren't even familiar with what to look at on a mod, what's what, you pull it up and you see a lot of information on here and you don't really know what you're looking at, then I'll try to give a breakdown of that real quick for you. Let's grab, say fast hands really quick. So, on the top left of the mod, that's the number of copies I have of the mod. It's 139 fast hands sitting on this one tile right here. On the top right is the polarity and the cost of the mod. 2 means if I've got 30 capacity on my unmodded, MK1 Bratton, right? I put this on there and it's going to go from 30 to 28. It's going to reduce 2. So the polarity is the bar. There's names for these polarities, but it doesn't matter. You put a bar onto a mod slot that has a bar built into it. I'll show you that real quick so you know what that looks like. Right here is a bar. If I take this mod off, there's a bar sitting on there compared to the one underneath it. There's nothing in the top right of that box. Being that the bar is there, I take something with capacity of 9, what happens? It would cut it in half. Now I know it's an odd number, so it always rounds up. So assume that it's a 9, assume that it's a 10, it's going to cost 5. That's the point of polarities, that's the entire purpose of them. You can add polarities to a gun to allow it to take more mods. That's called Forma. You form a slot, it brings the weapon back down to rank 0, you gotta level the whole thing back up again. And when it hits 30, you can put more mods on than you were before. Then obviously in the middle there in big letters says fast hands. It's the name of the mod. The effect is underneath it. It says +5 reload speed. If you look at a max rank one, it says +30 reload speed. Same mod, unranked. How to tell the rank? The dots at the bottom there. You'll see 5 gray dots. Mods either come with 3 gray dots, 5 gray dots, or 10 gray dots. This is a 5, and over here you see the 5 number blue, meaning it's maxed out. That's how you can tell rank. Over here you see this one has got 4, this one has 3, this one has 2, and this one has 1. This is a broken mod. I showed you the difference between broken mods. This one also has, this one has 3 dots on the bottom here as opposed to the original 5 due to being broken, only adding 3 reload speed. It actually says damaged underneath where it says fast hands as well, if you hadn't noticed that. The bottom left is a conclave number. It's not an important number, you don't have to worry about it. It's for an old system with PvP that we don't use anymore. PvP currently has its own mods. Right now the most this does is it determines how strong a boss is going to be based on the players that are there. Someone who's got a higher conclave amongst guys who have a low conclave is going to cause that boss to just be stronger. It's really not that big of a deal. If somebody's there that's that much stronger, they can handle the boss on their own. You'll be carried through. No big deal. Bottom right tells you what it's for. You put this on a rifle. This one says unique, Firestorm. This goes on weapons with splash damage to improve the blast radius of the splash damage, as it says in the description. So sometimes you'll come across something that's not as simple as just a rifle or a shotgun or a pistol. Sometimes there's something very specific about it. Take a look at melee weapons. You go down to the end here, throwing melee specifically. So while it's in the melee slot, it's still unique to one type of weapon. That's basically how the mods work. That's how you look at what you're reading here. The rarity also is another thing. If you scroll over here, you see these bronze ones are called common mods. At the top of the mod there's 1 star at the top of the image. And it's also bronze. That's 2 indicators that it's common. The uncommon, silver, I know it looks blue, silver and has 2 stars at the top, and then gold having 3 stars at the top. Primed mods have 4 stars at the top. These are legendary rarity. This is the only thing that's more rare than a gold rare mod. Don't expect to get your hands on these too early in the game. Just focus on getting bare essentials. Those are easily the most important things you can get your hands on. You could have legendary mods and not have any of the essentials, and your stuff just won't be that good. Everybody still uses the bare essential mods, whether they have the legendary or the rare mods or what they have. A lot of the bare essentials are still used. The different types of mods, auras, go on the Warframes and actually add capacity to the Warframe. I can show you in use online. I have Rejuvenation plugged in. On the polarity, this normally adds 7 capacity, but it's adding 14 for matching the polarity. So that's why I have a total capacity of 74, not 60. That's with a potato. Being this, an Orkin reactor. Augment mods are mods that exchange the abilities of certain Warframes. These are unique to not just Warframes in general, but unique to specific abilities on them. This one here goes on Ash and only affects Bladestorm, for instance. These can be got at the Syndicates. 6 of them in total. You click on one, go to the Warframes, select their mods, and here are your augments. And then not to be confused with the rest of the melee mods are the stances. Stances are literally just combinations for your melee. That's essentially what they are. Each combination within each stance may have unique swings that have different stats than what the base weapon would normally have. I'll show you an example on the stance that I have currently equipped on my melee weapon. This goes in what would be the aura slot for your Warframes, and this also adds capacity. The good thing about this is when you get the hold of a stance and your weapon is unranked, if you put one on, you now have capacity to put mods on your weapon and on your Warframe with the aura when it's unranked, and normally wouldn't be able to fit any mods otherwise, making it a little bit easier to level up when you've freshly formatted or you just got a new Warframe. here are the combos. Now, these are the three that you really want to look at. Most melee weapons have 3 unique combos. The rest of them are just your typical moves. It's your sliding melee attacks, your airborne melee attacks, your wall attacks. Your actual click combinations are here, like Guiding Light and Heating Call and Destined Path. Each of them have their own, every weapon's got their own unique combo, usually in combinations of pausing at a certain point, holding block while you're doing it, or holding down a melee button at a certain point, holding the back button or holding the forward button while you're attacking. Usually is what triggers those melee attacks. Now, another thing you want to check the wiki for is specifically what the stat differences are in each of the swings for different stances, to see which ones suit you. Some individual attacks will have a higher crit chance or higher status chance than the rest of the swings from other combinations. It's something to look out for. Now, about leveling mods. A lot of people want to be able to level up their mods to get bigger effect out of them. For that, you can use mods to fuse into other mods to get that effect, and then use fusion cores afterwards if it becomes harder to use the mods. Some of the things you want to do is, if you're, we'll say, I want to level up as Bane of Grenier. I'm going to select one of them, and I'm going to select Fusion. Now, if you want to level something up using mods, you got to be careful of the rarity, the polarity, and the type that you're fusing it with. For instance, if I took something like this, I want to put one of these into there, look at how much it levels it up by. It only brings the bar up a little bit. There's a number of reasons for that. If I take it off, take a Bane of Grenier, put one of these in, brings it up one whole level, rank 2. Now, the reason for this, the rarity. This is an uncommon mod. Over here, I'm using a common mod to level it. On top of that, the polarity mismatches. There's a V polarity, this is using a bar polarity. But if I go and use Bane of Infested, a different mod entirely, it actually brings it up much more than an ammo drum would, because of the same polarity and same rarity, both for rifle. To level something like this out to max rank, if you have enough mods, you can bring it up to level 5, maybe 6 or 7. When you get it to that point, it gets very costly to use other mods to level it. So try to look at your credits, see how much you can afford, what you can spend, and you may have eventually at one point, just for the sake of preserving cores is to do that. You may want to get to cores eventually after spending so much in credits and other mods for leveling it. Fusion cores are more effective at fusing mods than other mods are. So here you have your common ones, the weakest, and your R5s being the strongest. Now, there's also the legendary cores, which we're not going to count. These fully rank up any mod to max with one use. It's really, you want to use it on a 10 rank mod that's completely unranked, otherwise it's a waste. But you're not going to see a lot of these around. Maybe from your sortie missions, you'll be lucky you get a couple there. And, you know, hold on to them, sell them, whatever it is. As far as what you're going to use to level things up with, you got to look at the base value on the weapons. If something's got a higher slash damage than any other element, then you want to put mods on that are going to increase the slash damage, because everything works on percentages. Naturally, you put a mod on, it's got, I don't know, any percent you put it on to affect a number, it's going to affect the higher number more than it's going to affect the lower number. So always spec towards the strong points of a weapon or a Warframe. Don't try to spec towards the weak points to make up for it and get a balanced build. It doesn't work out well. Well, that's everything. I'll try to go over more advanced stuff, maybe use specific Warframes as examples for actual Warframe builds in another video. But this is, I mean, I don't know, this is your basics 101 modding, so hopefully that helps. See ya.